we will first introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Rajesh Tandon. Dr. Rajesh is an international acclaimed leader and practitioner of participatory research and development. He is the founder president of Participatory Research in Asia. In short, is known as PREA, Global Center for Participatory Research and Training since 1982. He was appointed co-chair of the prestigious UNESCO Chair on Community-Based Research and Social Responsibility in Higher Education for 2 terms, which is from 2012 to 2016 and 2016 to 2020. Electronics engineer by profession from IIT Kampo, MBA from IIM Calcutta, and PhD in management from Case Western Reserve University, USA. Dr. Tandon left his teaching job at IIM Calcutta to support and champion the cause of building organizations and capacities of the marginalized through their knowledge, learning, and empowerment. A pioneer of participatory research, he has given new meaning to academic research by redefining the relationship between the researcher and the researched. Tandon has served on numerous expert committees of Government of India, UGC, UN, Commonwealth, and World Bank. In 2015, the Indian Adult Education Association, IAEA, awarded Dr. Tandon the Nehru Literacy Award for his distinguished work on gender issues. The government of India honored him with the prestigious award in social justice in March 2007. The University of Victoria, Canada awarded Dr. Tandon the degree of Doctor of Law, honoris causa, in June 2008. He's the first Indian to be inducted to the International Adult and Continuing Education IACE Halls of Fame, class of 2011. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Tandon, Rajesh Tandon, to present his keynote talk entitled Reimagining Higher Education in Post-Pandemic Asia-Pacific Reconnecting Roots. The floor is all yours, Dr. Rajesh Tandon.
Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and good morning to all of you. First of all, congratulations to APUCEN for organizing this wonderful, important event despite the difficulties we face during the pandemic. I am especially delighted to be here today because I am one of the co-founders of APUCEN. In fact, my co-chair, Dr. Bud Hall, and I were in Penang in USM when the idea of APUCEN was crystallized. And it has been a wonderful journey since then. I also want to take this moment to congratulate Asia Engage. Because of the confusion on various Zoom links, which arrived since last 2 days, I ended up visiting their part of the conference as well for momentarily. And I want to congratulate them as well because I was part of their conference in Kuala Lumpur about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And I enjoy very much that conference as well. I want to speak on the challenge of reconnecting with our roots. And I want to speak on this challenge from the perspective of what is going on in the last 8-9 months. What has happened during this pandemic since February is unbelievable. No United Nations resolution, no multilateral agreement, no WTO diktat and no stock market, whether New York or London or Berlin or wherever else, could have made such a global sweep overnight, affecting all countries, all populations, all institutions. What COVID-19 has done. When in 2015 Sustainable Development Goals were announced, we said, leave no one behind. Well, pandemic has left no one behind. Nobody is, nobody is, left untouched. Hmm? When the climate deal was made in Paris, tall commitments were made about how we will cut down emissions, how we will reduce consumption, how we will change our lifestyles. Nothing much has happened. We know all that. Young people like Greta continue to challenge us, but nothing happened. However, COVID-19 shut down consumption. Boom! In my country, for 4 months, not a single thing was produced. And what was produced on agricultural land could not even be marketed, sold, or consumed. For first 8 weeks, we made do with whatever was in our homes. And we invented creative grandmother's recipes. Our young people who were used to order 2 meals a day from some Zomato or some Momo or some supplier started enjoying their mother's cooking, grandmother's cooking, and started enjoying eating home cooked food because there was no option. All our wardrobes full of fancy clothes and multiple numbers of shoes and chappals and sandals, all our wardrobes remained shut down for months. And most of us walked on virtual platforms wearing shorts. I used 4 pairs of shorts and 6 t-shirts in the first 4 months of the lockdown. That's all. It was anyway summer here, summer many northern hemisphere, though winter in the southern hemisphere. And we managed to the extent that various festivals came and went away. The first big festival came was the color festival in India, Holi. And I think in parts of Southeast Asia, in Thailand and Cambodia in particular, they also have color festival around April, late March, April. Then we had Easter, Good Friday and Easter. Again, many parts of the world celebrate that. Then came Eid. There was 1 month of fasting before Easter, Lent fasting, 1 month of fasting before Eid. And then came festivals which relate to the harvesting time in many parts of the world, harvesting festivals. And then in parts of the world, you may have read about the Festival of Light last week. Most of the young people, including my grown-up kids, have not enjoyed visiting religious places around festival time or on auspicious occasions. And so what happened? We stayed at home. We worked from home. We ate at home. We studied from home, and I find it amazing. We even learnt as a family to pray from home. More young people started praying because they could do it from home on their mobile. Prior to that, many of the religious institutions and places of worship did not have the religious platform, the digital platform to do so. But they built that platform, and you can pray from home. And when you pray from home, you can listen to Pope in Vatican as well as your local parish priest. You can listen to Imam in Makkah as well as your neighborhood Imam in the mosque. So pandemic has unsettled us. It has caused disruptions to our not just lifestyle, but our frameworks, our theories, and our assumptions. The most significant impact, obviously, has been on education. In many parts of the world, schools and colleges remain shut down. There is no physical gathering, even if physical classes are being scheduled, they are being done in small batches in some places. They are being done for research scholars who need to come to the labs, but not for vast majority. And this disruption to education has created both opportunities and challenges. You may have noticed that the biggest education happened when we sat down in our homes, locked down, and saw the plight of our own citizens who were not as well endowed, as fortunate, as better off as we were. Those of us who are on this platform today, those of us who have the privilege to go to university either as a student or as a teacher, we had homes where we could stay. We had food in our refrigerators which we could eat. We had electricity and bandwidth connectivity, and each home had multiple devices. If I look at my home, between the three of us, me and two grown-up kids, we had 12 devices. I'm currently using a desktop. I have a laptop. I have an iPad. I have a smartphone. The same happens with my kids. I live in a 3-bedroom house. Each of us has a bedroom. We can do distancing. I have 3 bathrooms and running water, so I can wash my hands any number of times I like. But I sat here, my kids sat here in the first 3 months of the lockdown, and we saw the plight of our fellow citizens, not just in India, many parts of the world. We saw how disrupted their life had become. We saw that they were evicted from their rented homes. We saw that they lost their livelihood and jobs immediately. We saw that they had no place to do physical distancing, because if 6 of them live in one room home with no running water and they have to carry a bucket to buy water, how many times this family will wash hands and how much distance they will create? In fact, it's only by going out on the streets and in the park that they create distance, not by staying at home. And the scenario made us realize that our societies have extreme fault lines. These fault lines we seem to have forgotten. These fault lines are rural, urban. These fault lines are rich and poor. These fault lines are young and old. How many societies forgot about their old people, whom we had parked in some elderly home, old age home somewhere, only to discover we couldn't visit them when they were dying. We couldn't even say goodbye. The inequalities around age, but also disparities between gender, disparities due to access to technology. This morning, one of the newspapers carries a report that less than 15%, 15%, of India's children are able to continue their studies online. And this 15% represents the so-called miracle of the middle class that has been driving India's economic growth, and the world has been celebrating and we have been clapping. 5 companies in India are known worldwide by their names for their digital technology innovation and penetration for their software. We have 1 billion mobile connections, but we only have half of that population access to home. That mobile connection is only for talk, not for bandwidth, not for data. And only one person in the family has that mobile, mostly the adult male, so-called head of the household. If you have 2 kids going to school and you have 2 persons trying to do work, sitting at home, work from home, study from home, online, you can imagine who will get the mobile and for how long. So, my friends, those of us who have bandwidth connectivity, who are sitting at home enjoying this virtual conference, participating in it, contributing to it, we are the world's privileged elite. And the pandemic has made it obvious. Even though I'm wearing shorts and sitting here with a shirt on my shoulders, my wardrobe is full of clothes and shoes. Even though I'm using one digital equipment, my study room is full of 3 more, and I have unlimited bandwidth. So, the privilege of higher education, the so-called ivory tower privilege of higher education, the elitism of higher education has been laid bare in front of us. But you may wonder that how did these millions of the poor, the under-resourced, the excluded survive during the last 8 months? You may wonder. What I am learning is unimaginable. They survived not because they received English language digital instructions from national authorities. They survived not because some brilliant scientist or public health official spoke in the evening every day on television, do this, do that. They survived not because security apparatus on the street chased them out back to their small homes if they tried to walk out for fresh air. They survived in their villages and in their communities and in their neighborhoods because they had local capacity, because they had to believe in themselves and in their neighbors, because local community leaders and local community institutions rose up to the challenge. Without new resources, without additional external input, without external expertise. They rose up based on local knowledge, local wisdom, traditional practices of looking after themselves, and trust in each other's, trust in the community, trust in their relationships. That's what helped them to survive. And when we say that the mortality rate in Asian countries is lower. I want to propose to you to consider, not because Asian countries have superior technology or Asian countries have discovered some unknown vaccine and vaccinated everybody, but the reason per capita mortality rate in most Asian countries is lower than Europe and North America is because Asian communities have relied on community knowledge, community wisdom, community leadership, and community trust. Because
I'm recording the video, record video during screen.
I am hearing some background noise. Somebody is speaking. Oswald Stephen is not muted. Please mute yourself. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself. This is called the new etiquette. Thank you. So, I want to suggest, therefore, that the science of today, our faith in miracle, magical vaccine, whose numbers keep rising by the week, despite President Trump complaining that vaccine is not going to save us. I want to argue and propose to you to look at your own family. Don't look far. Look at your own family. Look at your loved ones. Look at your families and communities from where you came to this higher education institution. Look at the villages and rural populations where you belonged and ask yourself, how the hell did they survive? And you will find that the hypothesis I am making, and I am making with some conviction and some evidence, largely from South Asia, that our mortality rates are so low, our infections rates may be high, and they may be increasing because our communities, our families, our social networks have relied on local capacity, local knowledge, local relationships. And this, unfortunately, has been undervalued. If I may say so, this has been devalued, not just during the pandemic, but throughout the 500 years of formal higher education, as we have come to know. We have distanced ourselves from local knowledge and local community. We have rejected that. In many places, we have called it voodoo science, and we have even thrashed local women who came up with solutions to local problems. And we hid ourselves in campuses with walls around, and those who had the possibility to enter our campuses, our higher education institutions, we inducted them with rituals. We made them pass some written test as if all knowledge was written. If all knowledge was written, mortality rates would have been 70% in Asia, given the density of populations in our cities and villages. Think of that. If all knowledge was written, populations by the millions would have been wiped out in Asia by now, by the pandemic. Thank God that all knowledge is not written, and a lot of knowledge, practical knowledge, experiential knowledge, indigenous knowledge is in oral traditions, which can be heard without a digital platform, without access to bandwidth, broadband. So we isolated ourselves from the society, and we then moved on to create compartments. We proudly call them disciplines or domains of knowledge. We divided ourselves in medical science, in engineering, in sociology, psychology, even social psychology, medicine of the second toe of the left foot. My God, such super specialization, we lost sight of the fact that that small toe, second toe on the left foot is part of a human body. Human body has not just physical body, human body has mind, spirit, and heart. We forgot. We tried to treat the second toe of the left foot with perfection and made no impact whatsoever. Our indigenous health traditions are holistic. More people in Western societies, but more people in middle class societies in India also practiced yoga at home during the lockdown of pandemic. They realized that yoga helps to heal not just the body, but also the spirit, the soul. So we created compartments and disciplines, and soon COVID-19 told us that it is not just a public health emergency which a vaccine or a bunch of oxygen ventilators can help you solve. We are talking about lives of people, their livelihoods. We may have received solutions to the physical aspect of public health in the pandemic. We may be anticipating the vaccines. But I want to tell you that many more millions in Asia, including all countries of Asia, particularly countries of Asia where young population has been increasing, all of these young people in Asia are suffering from mental stress and anxiety arising out of the lockdown and their inability to move out of home. They're being forced to study at home, forced to deal with their parents and siblings in claustrophobic atmosphere without the comfort of a hug, holding hands and whistling at each other and sharing music and food together. The consequences of this mental stress and anxiety will spread over decades. So, may I suggest, therefore, that those of us who have had the privilege and continue to have a privilege of higher education, many of us actually even get monthly salaries deposited in our bank accounts. We should now revisit the society which is around us. We should revisit that society not just from our disciplinary theories and concepts. We should revisit our society in order to understand how they have coped, how they have invented solutions locally, and what we can learn from them. We should revisit connection with our elders in our family. If we are fortunate to have grandparents, go talk to them. We should revisit our neighborhoods, even if we don't know the names of our neighbors. And we should revisit our communities which are far away from metro cities and our walled campuses. But we revisit them how? There has been many examples in the last 4 or 5 months. There have been many webinars on role of higher education during the pandemic, but the tone, unfortunately, has remained unchanged, as if there was no disruption. The tone is, let's go and help. Let's go and solve their problem. Let's go and fix solutions. Let's teach them how to wash hands. Let's teach them how to wear masks. No, my friends. This will be a continuation of our pre-pandemic behavior, attitude, and mindset. And we may be surprised that we will become even more irrelevant if we went with that mindset. So may I appeal to you to go out and reconnect with your families, your neighborhoods, and your communities with a spirit and sense of humility, not arrogance of our expertise, but humility, with open eyes and ears to listen, with a sense of curiosity to understand how did they find solutions? How did they manage without 11 smart devices at home? How did they manage if they did not know the dominant lingua franca, English or French or whatever? Let's go out and find out. And once we find out with this attitude, let's bring that knowledge, let's bring those stories, and let's bring those communities inside our academia. The walls we have created between society and university were artificial to begin with. They have become dysfunctional today. And I do hope, like the Berlin Wall, they are broken down in this post-pandemic context. This is our best opportunity to break those walls. But I am concerned about students of higher education. And I'm concerned about them because I am noticing that there are anxieties about their exams, there are anxieties about their learning, there are anxieties about their entrance test, there are anxieties about their graduation, there are anxieties about their jobs and employment and further studies. And I see that happening all around me, as well as in the reports that are coming in. These 18 to 25-year-old with whom all of us on this conference interact, because we know them, because we are in the university system, we see them as students, even if we don't have our own children at that age. Imagine, think of it, that you were ready to write your final exam in the month of March and disruption happened. You were selected to the best university in Malaysia and Taiwan and Philippines and India, and disruption came. Imagine the uncertainty, the unpredictability, and the anxieties caused by the disruption. So we need to find ways to get our students engaged in the real world. We need to help them to get over the fear and the anxiety that is gripping them. Even if classes are not happening face to face, even if all studies and exams are not being conducted on campus, I am sure each of you as a lecturer, as a teacher, as a researcher can figure out small projects, small actions by which your students in groups of 1 or 2 can visit their own neighborhoods, look around, make some curious inquiries, do something with their hands and feet, and for some time leave aside the digital instrument. More long-term consequence of coronavirus, I don't know. I'm not a public health expert, but I can see long-term consequences of infection caused by digital instruments and devices. If our young people are stuck to these devices 24/7, they are losing capacity for social relations. They're losing capacity to make sense of their real world because they are losing capacity to read the cues that come from real world. They're losing capacity to use their senses. In academia and higher education, we tend to emphasize only cognitive capacity of human being, thinking. But where do you get data from? You get your data from your eyes. You see, gets you data. You get your data from your ears. You hear. You smell. You taste. You touch. Those senses provide data for you to function as a person in society, as a person in family. If those senses are blunted, if you're not getting any data from those senses, because the only source is this platform which I am looking at the moment, then these young people are going to lose their capacity to make sense of the world around them. And if you can't make sense of the world around them, you create nonsense. So, even whether your university has a community engagement policy or not, whether your department and faculty encourages you or incentivizes you to do community engagement or not, may I appeal to all of you, and through you to many others in your institutions and in academia, that you find a way to get your young people, your students, engaged in the real world in a small measure in order for them to get back to society. I would also encourage you to think in small steps where they can develop new insights, new knowledge by engaging in the real world, by engaging with communities and societies which they had lost contact with or had forgotten about it. Be they the informal urban settlements near your campuses, be they the daily wage earner, blue collar labor, be they construction workers, be they farmers, be they agricultural labor, be they home-based women working from home, be they sanitary workers, be they cleaners, be they people who you do not find on university campuses. Therefore, can we imagine the society now becoming the university campus? Therefore, can we imagine that the sites of new knowledge are not just our labs and classrooms and our libraries, but the sites of new knowledge are the society at large, and we help our young people to explore those sites as a way of returning to a new normal, a new world. May I also suggest that we critically examine in this period the curriculum, the content, the syllabus that we teach. Because that content and curriculum and syllabus was designed pre-COVID. It was designed without even paying attention to the Paris Accord on climate change. Bulk of it was designed without taking into cognizance sustainable development goals. Much of this curriculum, frankly, at the undergraduate level in our universities and colleges is stale, sterile, irrelevant, imported from outside without assessing their meaning to our context. We review that curriculum from the point of view of the lessons that pandemic is teaching us. Lesson 1, where is local knowledge? Lesson 2, where is multidisciplinarity? People's lives are an integral whole. You can't chop them into disciplines and study apart. Lesson number 3, ecological pressures are undergirding the pandemic and its spread. Revisit the lifestyle of consumption. Do we really need economic theories which talk about perpetual GDP growth rate? Do we need economic theories which talk about economies of scale? So you produce in one part of the world and ship it to another part. What happened to all those shipping lines in March, April, May, and June? They got stuck. You could only eat and consume what you had within 100 kilometers of where you live. Let's therefore revisit our curriculum, what we teach, but we also revisit how we teach. And part of that how we teach is how we enable our students to learn from society as well. We learn from books, we learn from scholars, but my grandmother is an uncertified scholar. No harm in learning from her. This is possible only when we, as teachers and researchers in our higher education system, unlearn ourselves. We are used to a curriculum and a pedagogy which is designed pre-pandemic, which is designed to keep us safe in a walled campus, in our classroom, with a subject matter that does not disrupt our life. The greatest challenge, my friends, is for us to change. And for us to change, we must unlearn not just the content, but our mode of learning as well. We need to unlearn who we are and what is our role in society, in addition to making a living through monthly paycheck. We need to unlearn what's the role of knowledge and higher education in improving our societies, in making them more humane, more livable, more healthy, and more affectionate. I want to suggest that the biggest challenge for us as teachers and researchers and academic leaders is to change. We are stuck, and for us to change, we must unlearn. Only then relearning is possible. And all of you are students and practitioners of learning because you are teachers and researchers. Learning is an emotive experience. Learning creates anxiety. Learning means trying out something new which has not been mastered. Therefore, take the risk. Take the risk and unlearn. Take the risk and change yourself so that you can help your students and your society to draw the lessons of pandemic into teaching and research such that we create more livable, more humane, and more healthy societies. If our neighborhoods and our communities begin that way, sustainable development goals will be achieved one by one, locality by locality, not from New York or Paris. And ecological rebalancing will begin to happen. Look at our consumption, look at our theories which perpetuate that consumption. a special challenge to students of management and business and economics who seem to think they have all the answers. But I wish you all the very best. I challenge you to go home after this conference and think what you need to unlearn and how you will bring that unlearning into your teaching and research in your universities. But I also request you, when you leave this conference, to go and give a hug to your loved one. It's important you say so, that I love you now before it is too late. Thank you.